So we see Dabi coming off of Gigantomachia, and he's about to do the prominence burn, which I guess it's kind of more or less revealed that he knew how to do this because, you know, in the beginning of this chapter when he's still Choya, he's like, you know, let's learn the ultimate move. So I guess that's kind of confirming that he has kind of always known it, and I suppose that's what led to his, you know, quote unquote death, and we'll talk about that later. But I guess this goes back to what Dabi was talking about in the previous chapter when he was, I don't know, implying that he was going to take out Endeavor along with him, because I assume that once he does the prominence burn, it's like it takes himself out along with, you know, whatever his target is, which in this case it would be Endeavor and maybe even Shoto, because we already saw how much of a toll it took on Endeavor's body. So given that Dabi is the way that he is, I guess it's fair to assume that this is like an all or nothing attack. But then we come to the moment of truth, because Dabi's prominence burn is stopped by Best Jeanist. This is awesome. We've been speculating about this for a couple weeks now because, you know, it was kind of teased back in chapter 288 that Best Jeanist was likely going to be on that plane given the silhouette that we saw of him and also those carbon fiber coils that we saw on the plane. And it still has yet to be confirmed that these are carbon fiber, but come on, it pretty much is. And we know that because Best Jeanist pretty much did a similar thing in chapter, I think 50 or 51 of Vigilantes, when he held up that big tower when he was assisting Captain Celebrity. You know, he says that as long as it's a fiber of some kind, he can control it regardless of how big or heavy it is, and such in this case of these carbon fiber cables. So maybe you could even say that this is like the peak of Best Jeanist's power, because they clearly came prepared here. So I guess this is the best that he could do, or maybe on at least short notice. I mean, of course they could use more of these things, but this seems like enough, at least for this moment in time. And now this has certainly shifted the momentum back onto the side of the heroes, at least for now, because I'm pretty sure he's going to restrict Gigantomachia somewhat, at least currently. And Dabi to some degree. It remains to be seen what Mr. Compress and Spinner and even Skeptic is going to do at this point. And Toga is still kind of MIA. I'm sure she's going to get there fashionably late because we know that a couple of chapters back she was dealing with her Araka and all that stuff. But I say at least for now he's going to restrain Gigantomachia because it wasn't revealed in the spoilers that I talked about yesterday. And I talk about them every Thursday, or at least whenever we get the spoilers. So please subscribe if you're into finding out, like, you know, immediate chapter leaks and stuff like that. But we see Spinner holding Shigaraki's like a seemingly unconscious body at this point. He's like, hey, you know, wake up, give Gigantomachia an order. So I guess this is the ticking clock for the villains, which is good. I think this is giving hope for the villains to actually come out of this battle and, you know, be able to retreat or somewhat, because until Shigaraki wakes up, you know, Gigantomachia is kind of just going to be there. That's what we've come to learn of him. He kind of just is immobile or inert unless he is given an order by whoever his master at the time is. I mean, both of them are kind of still present. So until either All for One or Shigaraki says something, he's kind of just going to be there, restricted by Best Jeanist, and maybe that will give the hero some hope or something. And that leads me to think that maybe this is when All for One kicks back in, like he takes over Shigaraki's body again and wakes him up and then gives Gigantomachia an order to like kill everybody or something. Or maybe Shigaraki wakes up himself. Regardless, I do think that's going to happen. Like I said, this is definitely a ticking clock for the villains and also to give some levity to the heroes in the meanwhile, because we've kind of been going back and forth with that stuff. But looking into like the future of what could be happening here, aside from like ticking clock, Gigantomachia responding to orders and everything, I'm thinking that Best Jeanist is going to have some success against, you know, whatever he's going to be going against here. You know, Dabi, probably not Gigantomachia fighting back. And then of course also he has the assistance of Shoto, maybe Endeavor's not looking good. And then Nedry is there, of course. And we have like Ida and all the other supplementary heroes who are still somewhat able to fight back. So maybe Best Jeanist deals with whoever else. Gigantomachia is kind of the wild card right now, but I would really like to see Dabi and Shoto go at it, at least for a little bit. I think that would be super interesting, and I think we're all kind of collectively looking forward to something like this to at least happen. I mean, it was teased right here, but at least it'll somewhat happen maybe in the next chapter. It doesn't have to be Dabi going full-blown prominence burn. You know, we could just have a similar battle to like that he had with Getten. And even that didn't really have much finality to it or really anything. I mean, a lot of it happened off panel, but at least we can get something of a clash between the two confirmed brothers right now. I think it's kind of more or less Also confirmed that Dabi doesn't like Shoto, despite him being his brother, despite them having relatable instances with Endeavor somewhat. I guess he doesn't like him because he represents what Endeavor always wanted, so I guess he can't help but see Endeavor through Shoto. But also, let me go a little further into the future, because I'm expecting, like I said, Gigantomachia is eventually going to wake up or whatever, and then maybe both sides will retreat, because I don't think Best Jeanist is going to make it out of this completely unscathed. I'm sure he'll get smacked or something eventually. But if both sides are able to retreat, you know, Shigaraki goes his way, and maybe they go to Tartarus or something, they get all for one out, because they have Gigantomachia, so they could just plow their way to Tartarus and then, you know, and then pull all for one out. And then also that's how Stain breaks out, but that's a story for another time. But all of the information revealed by Dabi, you know, to the public here is undoubtedly going to tarnish the reputation of Hero Society. I mean, Dabi himself is pretty much insinuating that there's going to be long-lasting effects to this on the overall society of Japan, or maybe even the whole world. He's like, after seeing something like that, who wouldn't be shaking in their boots? Now, Best Jeanist showing up here to save the day kind of debunks what Dabi said. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be broadcasted to the world, but at least it is currently debunking one of Dabi's claims. But the rest of Dabi's claims are pretty credible. I mean, there is literal footage of Hawks killing Twice. People are seeing this real bad thing, we'll say, happening. I mean, yeah, Twice is a villain, but heroes aren't supposed to be lethal like that. Especially, like, it looks even worse because Twice is like running away, and it's not looking good for Hawks, especially with Dabi pointing out that Hawks' father was a villain. So I talked about this in my spoiler video yesterday, but I'll just go over it again real quick. So the seed for Hawks' dad being a villain was planted back in chapter like 250 when Ending shows up. When he's speaking to himself, he says, like, Endeavor, you know, we first met after you had captured the thief Takami. You know, Hawks' name is Keigo Takami. So that's pretty cool how Horikoshi set that up, and it all connects because we know that Endeavor saved Hawks as a child. So we can assume that, you know, after he captured the thief Takami, then he took Hawks in, and I guess he gave Hawks over to the public hero committee, and then they put him into that secret child training program that we see him in, because he was pretty much an orphan at that point. I mean, we don't get any information on his mom or whatever, so I guess she was out of the picture. But that all connects and that all makes sense, and it's pretty well done by Horikoshi. But going back to Dabi's backstory, while we do get way more insight into it than we ever had before in this chapter, there's still some missing links to it. We know that he died in the fireproof training room, and then it's said that only a piece of his jawbone was left behind. So obviously not everything is adding up here. It is probably true that he maybe tried to practice the prominence burn, or maybe he was trying to take himself out, because we know that Toya like ran to Natsuo after training and whatnot, and he was really upset with everything. We saw that his hair became more and more white, which we can assume from the stress and everything. And in this chapter, he seems more upbeat and more willing to train with Endeavor, but I guess things got harsher as time went on, and he, you know, became depressed with everything. And I guess Toya just decided to stage his own death, possibly, or there was a third party involved, maybe, which has yet to be revealed, but that's always a possibility. But I assume that either Toya legitimately tried to take himself out, because he does have the burns after all. Maybe it didn't work, so after he woke up or realized that he wasn't completely dead, then he ran away or something, and maybe a piece of his jaw came off or something, because he does have the burns around his jawline, so maybe a part of it came off or something and he left it there. I mean, there's going to be more revealed to this because, like I said, there's missing links. We don't know the full entire story yet. And also there's that whole gap in time as to Toya, you know, nuking himself and then becoming Dabi. So that needs to be filled in as well. But let me know what you think about this chapter in the comments. If you like the review, guys, please give it a like. Please subscribe. Trying to reach 100K by the end of the year. I also have a Patreon, Twitch. I got stuff. Check them out. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.